Hi, it's Alan from the Aerial Owners Motorcycle Club. I've got the BA gearbox from a 1939 Aerial Red Hunter in bits at the minute, and whilst I was trying to get my head round how it all works, I thought I'd have a go at making a video to try and explain what's what. Hopefully it might be of some help to others who aren't really up on gearbox internals. Anyway, have a look, see what you think. Cheers. This is the main shaft, which is driven by the clutch at this end. It has a plain section, a spline section and a plain section. This is the final drive gear. There's two plain bushes inside. This fits on plain section at the end. The next gear is a sleeve gear, which is splined, fits on these splines. There are dogs at the end which engage with dogs on the inside of the final drive pinion when fourth gear is engaged. And this is the third gear pinion, which is plain, fits on this plain section. This has dogs on the inside which are engaged by these dogs when third gear is selected. So when fourth gear is selected, the sleeve is moved this way, locks these two gears together and locks this gear to the main shaft, and when third gear is selected, these dogs engage and locks this gear, the third gear, to the main shaft. This is a lay shaft that has the speedometer worm drive on this end. First gear is the sliding gear pinion, which is splined, fits on this spline section. Next gear is the first drive pinion, which is plain, fits on this section. So it has dogs on the inside which are engaged by these dogs to engage first gear. There's a second gear pinion, plain on the inside, with dogs on the inside which are engaged by these dogs on the sliding pinion to engage second gear. This is the third gear pinion, which has splines on the inside and fits on this spline section of the lay shaft. And finally the output pinion, which is splined and fits on these splines on the lay shaft. So to engage first gear, the sliding pinion engages with first gear, locks first gear to the lay shaft and slides into the second gear pinion to lock the second gear pinion to the lay shaft. So this is how the main shaft and the lay shaft and all the gears are mounted in the gearbox. So the main gearbox casing would be here, and I'll now try and explain how each gear is selected within the box. So in neutral, when we turn the main shaft, which would be done by the clutch, we can see that the spline sleeve rotates with the main shaft, but because the first and second gear pinions are free to turn on the lay shaft, there is no output via the output gears to the final drive. we now engage first gear by moving the sliding pinion over into the first gear pinion, the drive now comes through the main shaft, through the sliding gear pinion, down to the first gear pinion, which is now locked to the lay shaft by the sliding pinion. Therefore the drive is transferred from the main shaft to the lay shaft, through the final gear pinion, which is locked to the lay shaft, to the final drive pinion, and from there to the final drive sprocket. In the second gear, the drive is taken through the main shaft, through the sliding pinion, down to the second gear pinion, which is now locked to the lay shaft, through the lay shaft, through the final drive pinion, which is locked to the lay shaft, through the final drive gear and to the sprocket. If we select third gear, this locks the third gear pinion to the main shaft, so the drive comes through the main shaft to the third gear pinion, which is now locked to the main shaft, down to the lay shaft third gear pinion, which is splined to the lay shaft, along the lay shaft to the final drive lay shaft pinion, from there to the final drive pinion, and from there to the sprocket. And if we select fourth gear, the drive comes through the main shaft to the sliding pinion. The sliding pinion is then locked to the final drive pinion, and drive is therefore passed to the sprocket. So this is a direct drive or direct connection from the main shaft to the final drive pinion. There aren't any other gears involved. The dogs on the sliding gears are moved into engagement with the dogs on the driven gears with the selector forks. This is the first and second gear selector fork that fits in a groove on the sliding gear. And this is the selector fork for the third and fourth gears that fits in a groove on this sliding gear. The selector forks are moved sideways by the camshaft, which fits in here and which is turned by the gear lever. The grooves in the camshaft form cams, and it's these cams that translate the rotational movement of the camshaft into the sideways movement of the selector forks. The selector forks are fitted to the camshaft with a pin. The pin follows the grooves in the camshaft, and as the camshaft turns, the selector forks are moved sideways, in turn moving the sliding gears sideways. With regard to timing the camshaft, as others on the forum have mentioned, the instructions say place the punch mark on the end of the camshaft at 9 o'clock, and in this position the gearbox is in neutral. This is true to an extent, as can be seen. Here is the gearbox with the selector camshaft with the punch mark at 9 o'clock. It is in neutral as none of the dogs are engaged with the driven gears, but if we move the camshaft we can see that rather than being in true neutral between first and second, if we move the camshaft it's between second and the other way third. So in this position with the dot at 9 o'clock the gearbox is between second and third gear. So does it matter that the gearbox is in a false neutral between second and third rather than true neutral when the punch mark on the camshaft is at 9 o'clock? Well, having looked at it, I don't think so. The important point is that with the punch mark at 9 o'clock you align the gear change quadrant punch mark next to it. As long as you do this, from what I can see, all the gears should select correctly. So here goes. So this is second gear, first gear, true neutral, second gear, false neutral between second and third, third gear, and finally top gear. Well, there you have it. If you got through the video as far as the end, congratulations. Hope it's been of some use to you. I intend to do another one looking at the wear on the gearbox, and I'll post that as and when it's done. Cheers for now.